A bunch of terrorists take over a hockey stadium?
Yes.
How would hockey players know if there are terrorists in there?
Sudden death. You lose, pal.
After back-to-back Stanley Cup victories in 1991 and 1992, the Pittsburgh Penguins were riding a serious high.
What do you say we take this out on the river and party all summer?
So what did team owners Howard and Karen Baldwin have in mind to follow up this incredible championship run?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
How about dropping a helicopter through their arena roof, dangling a little girl from their scoreboard, and setting off explosions inside and outside the arena? Oh yeah, and having their beloved mascot get their feathers absolutely plucked by one of the biggest action movie stars in history. This all happened. Yes, that's what the Pittsburgh Penguins owners did when they produced a first-of-its-kind action epic set against hockey's biggest stage. Let's bring the legacy of sudden death, one of Hollywood's most ambitious action films, into focus.
An awesome movie about karate and hockey starring Jean-Claude Van Damme.
The concept for what would become Sudden Death came courtesy of Karen Baldwin, a longtime actress, writer, and producer whose husband Howard Baldwin had previously founded the Hartford Whalers before selling the team in 1988. The couple acquired the Penguins in 1991, and it was while flying over the team's home, Civic Arena, that the idea for an action movie was born.
It was very ahead of its time in its design. It was designed like a colander so that it could open upon itself. And I think originally the conceit of the building was so they could do outdoor concerts as well and open the roof of the building and that kind of thing. Die Hard 1 and 2 had been done. And we were joking around saying, hey, this would be a great venue for Die Hard in an arena during a hockey game.
So here you have this big, studio picture that is Die Hard in an arena. And yet in the background, you have great hockey being played. And you have the whole feel of the game going on and the tension of the game as well as the tension of the series.
By the early 90s, Howard and Karen Baldwin were no strangers to Hollywood. They were involved in classics like Flight of the Navigator and Hoosiers before producing a number of their own films. By the time Karen Baldwin came up with the idea for Sudden Death, Hollywood was enjoying its first golden age of action blockbusters. In the 1980s and 1990s, names like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis, and Seagal were the absolute titans of the film industry.
Take that to the bank.
Big budgets, big explosions, big muscles, big guns, and an astronomical body count made these films huge hits. Sure, they weren't exactly Gone with the Wind, but audiences weren't necessarily interested in cinema. They wanted a spectacle.
They were doing these movies that were sort of very action heavy, very plot predictable, but they seemed to be audience pleasers. The whole concept was like, okay, what's a Die Hard movie, a backdrop we haven't seen? We thought the arena was really unique and different.
Karen Baldwin wrote the movie with screenwriter Gene Quintano, who later got their script in the hands of director Peter Hyams, who at that time was making the 1994 sci-fi action film Time Cop, starring Belgian action superstar Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Peter was like, oh my God, this thing is wild. It's too bad this could never happen. I mean, who's ever going to let you use the arena and who's ever going to let the Penguins do this? And then when they said, look, Peter, people who developed the script actually own the team. He's like, I want this to be the next movie that I do. And then when he talked to Jean-Claude about it, Jean-Claude's like, well, I want it to be the next movie I do with you.
And this is your A-list movie now. Now you're up there with, Stallone and those guys, the action hero Schwarzenegger.
I'm trying my best, Valerie.
A former national kickboxing champion, Van Damme was at the top of the action star pecking order in the 1990s, coming off hit movies like Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Universal Soldier, and of course, Double Impact, in which the action star plays his own twin brother.
There's two of them.
In Sudden Death, Van Damme signed on to play a Montreal-born former hockey player and disgraced firefighter named Darren McCord.
How are you, Darren?
That movie, by the way, I didn't do too much martial arts. Only one kick. And not a perfect, correct, technical kick. I made it very difficult to do because I'm a fireman and I want to play a normal guy.
McCord was the latest in a long line of excellent anglicized character names for the Belgian-born Van Damme, who over the course of his long career played butt-kicking protagonists like Kurt Sloan, Jack Quinn, and of course Eddie Lomax. It was par for the course for actors whose thick European accents didn't really hurt their box office appeal.
Come with me if you want to live.
With a director and one of the world's biggest movie stars attached to the film, it wasn't long before Universal Pictures came aboard. And just like that, the Baldwins were making an epic action movie starring their NHL team inside their NHL arena. There was still the matter of who the Penguins' opponent would be in the film. And in stepped Blackhawks owner Bill Wirtz, who also had designs on his own acting career, but with one condition.
And the first person that gets killed is the owner of Blackhawks. And he was like, I love this script, but I just have one request. Can you leave me alive and can you kill my wife instead? And so we did.
Unfortunately for Chicago sports folklore, Wirtz couldn't make the film's schedule work, so it was an actor portraying him instead. When all the logistics were settled, including a $35 million budget, the production was going to be centered around a preseason game between the Penguins and Blackhawks. The crew would be able to shoot real NHLers until a wrench was thrown into those plans.
Because just when we're meant to be filming the hockey, of course, there's a lockout.
The season could be over if, in fact, we're unable to put this together.
We had booked an exhibition game with the Blackhawks. Now, we were going to film the hell out of that game with the real NHL guys. And then the lockout happened. Now, we had a nice relationship with our players, and we had a nice relationship with Bob Goodenow, who was head of the player union at the time. We reached out to Bobby and just said, hey, look, let us film this. We obviously can't use the Blackhawk players, but we could use our minor league players from the Cleveland Lumberjacks.
When the Penguins and Blackhawks faced off in a regular season game after the 1994 NHL lockout ended, the sudden death crew was in attendance and filming.
Ready, and action.
But while a number of NHL and AHL players got brief moments on screen, there was one Penguin star who got the full cameo treatment. We're of course referring to...
Luc Robitaille. He waves at me. See that, Dad? Luc Robitaille waves at me.
Sure, Luc Robitaille isn't generally remembered for his one season with the Penguins, but the current Los Angeles Kings president and veteran of 668 NHL goals enjoyed an eventful time in that lockout-shortened Penguins season. And his relationship with the Baldwins actually goes back to his rookie year in the league.
Luc was in my commercial acting class because Luc was from French Canada and he had an accent. He didn't speak English so well. So they put him into this commercial class thinking, okay, he can meet all these people, he can speak, the English will improve. And so I knew Luc before Howard did.
Jean-Claude showed me a couple karate moves.
Spoiler alert, in the film, the future Hall of Famer even scores the last-second goal that sends the game into, you guessed it, sudden death overtime. That pivotal moment was followed by Robitaille triumphantly celebrating with legendary Penguins captain... Wait, who's this guy? One of Robitaille's closest and oldest friends even got a line in this scene where the vice president enjoys some playful banter with Penguins players.
Are you Democrats or Republicans?
Neither, sir. Canadians.
But that isn't just a member of Luc Robitaille's entourage. That's NHL super agent Pat Brisson. Who knew this shirtless dude would eventually represent Sidney Crosby? But no hockey player got a bigger break in sudden death than longtime Penguins forward and current Penguins broadcaster Jay Caulfield. It wasn't his personality or diction or even his missing teeth that earned Caulfield the role of fictional Penguins goalie Brad Tolliver. It was his jacked bod.
Peter Heim had seen him after working out, had seen him take the jersey off and saw it and was like, oh my God, this guy has an incredible physique. We've got to put him in the movie. And so he said to Jean-Claude, we're going to have this guy in the scene. And Jean-Claude looked at him and said, okay, but you can have him in the scene, but do me a favor. Don't put him right next to me because this guy is really amazing looking.
But Jay Caulfield's pivot from hockey into acting was nothing compared to Van Damme's work in a scene that saw McCord steal Brad Tolliver's gear and appear incognito on the ice as the Penguins goalie.
I mean, does hockey interest you at all? I mean, you end up being a goalie out there.
I was very excited about the concept of the game and another story in the same time. So I was not a fan. Then I started to train hockey for the movie, and I became crazy about it.
Aside from the NHL work stoppage, Sudden Death's production turned out to be a pretty smooth operation, especially considering the thousands of extras filling the Civic Arena stands and all the complicated action scenes. But that didn't mean the film's star wasn't occasionally prone to diva-like behavior.
We had 11 to 12,000 people in the building, and we're ready to start filming, and he's going to pull a snit and not come out of his trailer because I don't know why. I knocked on that door and I said, "Son, you're coming out of that trailer. We got way too much at stake here." So out he came. He was great. We got the scene done.
Navigating the whims of a big-name action star wasn't nearly as difficult as filming some of the incredibly ambitious action scenes Karen Baldwin and Gene Quintano had written into their script. With thousands of people in attendance, an array of expensive equipment being wielded all over the arena, and a variety of big-budget crashes and explosions taking place throughout the film, making Sudden Death was no easy feat. And it all had to be done under the watchful eye of local law enforcement and the mayor's office, which could sometimes be a problem.
The hotel was right across from the parking lot of the arena, and all of a sudden, people shooting at each other with machine guns and the scoreboard blows up. Well, the hotel hadn't gotten the word about what was going on, so they thought the hotel was under attack. They had to evacuate the hotel. All the police, real police, came. We got a little hot water from that.
The film's incredibly ambitious action sequences didn't end there. There's the scoreboard explosion staged inside Civic Arena, and the scene when Darren McCord's daughter is left dangling from the Civic Arena rafters. Not to worry, folks, that wasn't an actual little girl holding on for dear life. It was a little person wearing a wig. All this action culminated in a single explosive scene that remains one of the most bonkers moments in movie history. The film ends with a helicopter carrying the film's diabolical supervillain, played by Powers Booth.
Would you like it if I filled your little mouth with spiders?
Plummeting through the open Civic Arena roof and crashing in a fiery heap on the ice.
Had a huge crane, had to bring it all the way in from Detroit. That was your money shot. If we had missed it, it would have been a severe budget overrun.
The Baldwins had more to lose than anyone if the scene didn't go off without a hitch. After all, it's no small task using a crane to drop a helicopter through an opening in the roof of an NHL arena, all while making sure to capture the entire stunt on camera.
We only had one helicopter to wreck, so if we missed that shot, and we damn near did, they had, I think, 3 or 4 cameras, and only one camera got it. And the way they did the shot, they put plexiglass on top of the ice so that the floor would not get damaged. And Powers Booth was supposedly in the helicopter, and he was in the movie, and the scene came off great.
Sudden Death was released in December of 1995 and enjoyed 2 glitzy red carpet premieres, one in Pittsburgh and another in Los Angeles. And the film fared well at the box office, cementing Van Damme's place among the kings of Hollywood action movies. The Baldwins spent close to 4 decades producing films. They even earned an Oscar nomination in 2005 for producing the Ray Charles biopic Ray, a role that earned the film's star Jamie Foxx Hollywood's highest honor. Since selling the Penguins in 1999, the Baldwins have continued to come back to hockey when they make movies. In fact, since the release of Sudden Death, the Baldwins have made 3 other films involving the sport: Mystery Alaska, Mr. Hockey, the Gordie Howe story, and Odd Man Rush, and they have 2 more hockey-themed projects slated for production. But Sudden Death remains a truly unique moment in both sports and film history, when a couple of brave NHL owners made a film starring their team, their arena, the players, and of course, their mascot.